Welcome everyone to the first meeting in December of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. This is week number 18 meeting in person, believe it or not. I'm President Doug Saltzgaver. We're glad to Wakanda in person today. And those of you out there in cyberspace watching on our live stream YouTube channel, welcome to all of you. And as always, Victus Media for filming us today. I'm not wearing my mask while I'm at the podium, so you can hear me more clearly. And I'm safely distanced from all of you. And I'm far better looking than past President Sean Mullen, who was filling in for me the last 2 weeks. Thank you. Thunderous applause there if you couldn't hear that on the live stream. And even though Sean's not here, I know he's watching or will be. And Sean, I wanted to let you know, I am not a heavy metal star wannabe. I gave that up years ago, but I did play the drums. But the last time I played was during the Jimmy Carter administration. Honestly. And then Skeet, got to get back at you too. Just to let you know, my fantasy music concert would be Karen Carpenter as the opening act to Black Sabbath. We will be sanitizing the microphone between speakers. We do ask that you keep your masks on when not eating or drinking or speaking from the podium. And those of you out watching on YouTube, you can leave your masks off. I'm doing the inspiration today, and in keeping with our speaker's topic of promoting tourism, the last several weeks, my wife and I have been out. We typically vacation overseas this time every year in November, but couldn't do it this year for obvious reasons. So we took a 19-day, 2,774-mile driving vacation in Iowa. This will inspire you to travel locally as well. Are you aware there is an Anne Frank Museum in Iowa? As she had a pen pal who lived in the small community of Danville. It's a very nice museum there. How about the prisoner of war camp in Algona that held German soldiers during World War II, where the prisoners made a half-scale nativity scene out of concrete. That is open to the public in November and December. There's also a museum there that's open year-round. A number of the POWs liked Iowa so much that they relocated back here after the war. Did you know that there are 95 of Iowa's counties that have freedom rocks painted by Bubba Sorensen to commemorate our military veterans? And the 4 counties that don't have them in process. If you don't know what I'm talking about, as I learned a few of you don't, you probably need to Google that. It's quite interesting. My wife and I have visited 70 of those rocks so far. Each rock has a story to tell of veterans who returned after their duty and some of those who did not return. In Iowa, you can stay in renovated historic hotels that have hosted presidents and dignitaries and dine in their upscale restaurants, or find a hole-in-the-wall place that tells you the 2 choices you have to select from for that day. Speaking of dining, in our past travels, we've had Thanksgiving dinner around a fire pit on Easter Island and in a bowling alley in Slovenia. I couldn't make that up if I wanted to. This year we celebrated a Thanksgiving meal in the parking lot of a Casey's General Store, for which many small Iowa towns are the heartbeat of the community. So when you feel comfortable to go out, do an adventure, go to the far reaches of Iowa, and help some of those small businesses and tourism sites that have been greatly impacted by this virus. Now, if you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Now everybody knows what comes next. Wave at your fellow Rotarians. A reminder to watch for a SurveyMonkey link by this Friday to vote for the 2021-2022 Board of Directors. We're not able to do this in person as we typically do at our December 10th meeting. Not have a quorum available in person. Fortunately, our bylaws do allow for electronic voting. Someone foresaw this day coming, didn't they? We will not be able to see how you voted, but we will know if you responded to the link and did vote. Excuse me. Hopefully we are not hacked by the Russians, who I'm sure are watching the outcome of our election with great anticipation. The nominees were sent in your November 24th e-bulletin and were included in an email that went out this morning to all members. Please don't fill out that attachment and try to send it back. The SurveyMonkey email will be coming out tomorrow. So please vote by. It only takes a few minutes to do. Now, I have the distinct privilege to introduce today's speaker. Greg Edwards has over 40 years of hospitality experience. 40 years? Wow, you are old, aren't you? He began as president and CEO of Greater Des Moines Convention and Visitors Bureau in 2000, previously leading convention and visitors bureaus in Illinois and Kansas. I don't get a whoop for Kansas. Thank you, past President Jamie. For basketball anyway, maybe not for football. Of course, I wore my Iowa State shirt today. He is the recipient of many awards, including Manager of the Year with Marriott Hotels. He was recognized by his industry peers with the Individual Professionalism Award, as well as served as chair of the Board of Directors for the Destination Marketing Association International. Wow. Greg has championed many accomplishments while in Des Moines. He reorganized the Des Moines Area Sports Commission, and his team has tripled convention and event bookings since 2000. He, along with a strong team of others, led the charge in hosting the NCAA Wrestling Championships and the NCAA Men's Tournament. Greg serves on numerous boards, including the Greater Des Moines Partnership, Principal Charity Classic, Iowa Destination Management Association, Travel Federation of Iowa, and co-chairs the Cultural Tourism Plan for the Capital Crossroads Strategic Plan for Des Moines, for the Des Moines Metro, just to mention a few things he does. He is married to his wife Joni and has 4 children. And before he comes up, and hopefully gets the computer running, everyone knows we're asking a question if we have time. You can step up to the microphone here, state your name for the record so everyone out live streaming knows who you are, and the microphone will be sanitized between speakers. With that, come on up, Greg.
Thank you.
Almost forgot. Yes.
How many people are on here today? 200 some members, I got 31 plus 14. I'm out of here.
There'll be more watching later.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My pleasure to see you all. It really is to actually be around people, and so I do need to speak to this. Okay. This is more my speed. I used to be a lounge lizard back in my day. Not really. Anyway, pleasure to really be here and be with people for a change. I will tell you about the 50s. Anyway, it's I'm rather cheery today. It hasn't been a cheery last, what are we in now, 8 months, I guess. And we'll kind of get you up to speed on what's going on in our world of travel and tourism. And thank you, Doug, for the plugs and taking the trip through Iowa. And that's what it's all about right now. And that's what we're really promoting, is staying near home and making trips and still getting out with your families and doing things. Although right now we're not supposed to do anything, including Thanksgiving. And who knows what Christmas holidays and Hanukkah and what have you will bring. So I think most of you are familiar with who we are, what we do, but we're Catch Des Moines, your Convention and Visitors Bureau through the metro area, representing 15 municipalities around Des Moines. Our main mission is to very simply increase visitors to Des Moines, meetings, conventions, sporting events in our industry right now, and we'll share some other stuff with you here shortly. We bring to the table a lot of different things. You know, we bring quality of life. So when we bring in things like the NCAA basketball tournament or other big events like that, it helps quality of life, and it helps keep employment here. It helps companies that are here help relocate people. We have 2 new relocation people here at my table today representing the Sister States organization. So thank you for moving to Des Moines. Another young lady at our table, Brittany, who moved here several years ago from that little town of Naperville, Illinois. And she's in the elevator business, by the way. Lots of ups and downs in that work. I use that at the table. They start throwing crap at me, too. Anyway, so it's great to have you here. But it's, you know, so much of the stuff we do does help people attract here. We always remind, especially the economic development people out there, you're not going to bring a company here or more employees here until they visit here. And that's what we're all about. So here's a great chart for a PowerPoint. Don't you love it when people, the number one rule in PowerPoint, don't put things up where people can't read. So the rest of my PowerPoint is pretty much stuff like this. Then I can just make it up if the facts or not. Now, this is actually our year-end review. We're on a fiscal year, July 1 to June 30. Last year, believe it or not, was one of our best booking years ever. We booked over 388 conventions, meetings, sports events, etc., the most ever in our history. And then things just fell through, and I'll show you some charts here in a second on all that. But brought in a lot of big things last year. We booked a lot of great things for future years, which is a lot of what we do. I mean, we're right now, luckily, we're booking things in 2022, 2023, and beyond. We're canceling stuff in 2020 and early 2021. So actually an excellent year. Here's the bad news slide. Since COVID-19 hit, we've canceled 332 events, or again, meetings, conventions, sports, etc. And this is just the stuff that we were responsible for bringing in. This doesn't take into consideration the 300 meetings at the Hilton downtown or the Marriott or the facilities throughout the metro. This is just stuff that we've actually touched and brought in. Economic impact of nearly $300 million just from these groups alone. So again, tremendous effect. And you think about when you travel, I mean, you're not just spending money at the hotel and the restaurant. You're spending money all throughout that community. You're stopping at the convenience store, you're running to the grocery store, you're going to attractions, you're maybe taking in a movie, entertainment. You're paying for Ubers and taxis and maybe an airplane ticket to get there, and there's just so many things that touch our industry. So big, devastating, really results. Here's just our sales chart that I talked about earlier, and our bookings last year of 388, which was a record year. Our board of directors obviously approves our goals annually, and thankfully they reduced our goals dramatically for this year down to 220, which quite honestly right now I think we're almost 6 months into our fiscal year, and we're about 24% of goal. So it's going to there. We're hopeful that things begin to turn around, obviously, in 2021. People start booking things again, wanting to do face-to-face meetings. You know, we talk a lot and hear a lot about what's the new normal going to be after COVID. And we don't know that yet in our industry. My truthful thought is people are going to want to get out. People are going to want to get back to face. People are going to want to touch people and see people and interact with people. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to bounce back. It's going to take some time. We're going to bounce back. We've totally pivoted on everything we do, you know. Our general day-to-day work is we're out, obviously, we're marketing the area through all kinds of marketing mediums, whether it be digital marketing or Facebook or the social media, our obviously our website page, the stuff that we put out, our newsletters, our communications through to our customers, to our partners here locally, just all that kind of stuff. But we really had to pivot back, and we're still doing a lot of that stuff, but we really had to upturn our communication, number one. We immediately began doing weekly hotel calls with all the hotels in the community, which, by the way, I think there's 130 some hotels in the metro, 13,000 hotel rooms. And we would generally have, early on, we'd have 70 to 80 hoteliers on these calls with us weekly, just communicating to them, this is what's canceled this week, this is what we're working on, this is what the future looks like, at least according to our crystal ball at this time, just really keeping them and try to keep them uplifted and keep them positive. You know, you've read so much about the mental aspects that COVID's having on people, and we've all had those moments where we've had breakdowns and what have you. But, you know, it's critical that, especially in our industry, I mean, we're the fun people. We got to keep going and we got to keep positive. And, you know, especially these hoteliers, you walk into the Marriott, 420 room hotel downtown, largest hotel in the state. And today, probably, my guess is they're running maybe 15% occupancy. They probably have, on a normal day, on a Thursday night and this time of the year, they'd probably be running close to 90% occupancy with their average rate of being, gosh, $170 some dollars. Tonight, they're probably running at 15% with an average rate of maybe $75. They would normally have about 200 people working there today in banquets and housekeeping and the front desk and the whole array of jobs. They maybe have 12 people working there today. And that's a true scenario. Hard this industry is hit. They've laid off, you've read the news, you know, the big hotel chains, the Marriotts and Hiltons and Hyatts, laid off just literally thousands of people in their corporate aspects and all that. Airline industry is the same way. You've been to the airport probably sometime in the last 6 months, and it's, although traffic is picking up a little bit out there, still way down from where it was. It's still 50% down from where it was a year ago. And so much of this depends on business travel too, which we don't necessarily impact business travel here. But when the large corporations like Wells Fargo, Principal, EMC, Nationwide, you name them, they've all got travel bans right now, and rightly so. You know, and people just don't want to travel. Businesses don't want to say, hey, you got to make a trip to New York to call on such and such client. They don't want to put their people in those positions to have to do that. So they've said no travel unless just totally necessary. Bad times. But anyway, this is kind of like, hi, I'm Debbie Downer, and I'm here to bring you down, not pump you up. We'll bring the elevator girl up later, and she can pump you up a little bit. Yeah, I knew you guys liked that. Okay, let's get back on track here. We got about 3 more hours, don't we? Okay, yeah. Anyway, I think I've hit on a lot of this stuff, but constant communication. We came out with a lot of different things early on. We partner a lot of times with Greater Des Moines Partnership, which also does a great job with local businesses and recruiting and economic development and all those great things. We came out with the hashtag DSM Local Challenge, just really telling people, asking people, support your local businesses. Support your retail, your restaurants. Restaurants obviously hurting really, really bad. And we're going to see, we haven't seen anything yet, but I mean, the predictions of closing restaurants in the next 6 months is going to be incredible. Thankfully, some of our better restaurant management, the Chentros and the Full Court Press guys, the Buzzard Billies and all that, have had such great business over the years. They've had good reserves and they've managed their money properly and all that, so they'll survive. But a lot of these, startups or younger restaurants, it's going to be really, really tough for them. We did a hotel bond program. We came out with this early on where you could go and buy a hotel bond for $100. 60 days later, that hotel bond was worth $150. You could buy one, give it to your family for Christmas, take your own family to a hotel and spend a couple nights for a weekend, kind of get away or whatever. And that worked out really nicely. We had, I think, 35 hotels participate in that. Every year we do Des Moines Restaurant Week in conjunction with business publications. Huge success this year, despite the COVID virus and all that, but a lot of people still did pickups and curbside pickup and all that good stuff. Out with a ton of new videos. If you go to our website, which is catchdesmoines.com, you'll see our video section on the front page. And we use the guy Scott Sipker, who's most of you know, who's the Iowa Nice guy. He's kind of the actor in all our videos. But we've really concentrated a lot on outdoor recreation. That's what people are doing right now. And we've got 800 miles of walking, biking trails throughout the metro. We've got great parks. We've got great golf courses. We've got all this outdoor activity available here. And that's what people want to do. And so we get the word out, too, even to the rural parts of Iowa, into Kansas City, Minneapolis, Omaha, the places we generally market to say, hey, you're ready to get away? Come to Des Moines, spend a weekend, enjoy the outdoors. Great hotel rates, all that good kind of stuff. So that's been effective for us. This is what we call our STAR report, which is this actually stood for, in its original days, Smith Travel Research. This is a company based out of Kentucky that started years ago, and they track hotel occupancy, average daily rate all across the world. And we subscribe to this, and we get actually weekly reports that will show us, peaks and valleys and hotel occupancies and what have you. And again, this is, if you look at the red line is the occupancy line, this line here. You can see it's hovering. This is through the end of October. We haven't received November stats yet, but we were at about 42% at the end of October. I can tell you right now, November's going to be right around 30%. Just that Thanksgiving week, historically, that's a pretty poor week anyway. December's going to be way down in the tubes. In past years, too, over holiday times, Thanksgiving, Christmas, you'd at least stay fairly steady because a lot of people are traveling in to see families and things. And if you're like me, you just soon have your relatives stay in a hotel. So that's not working out very well this time around. Anyway, then you can see the blue line, or the blue column. Oh, you guys know Lou? TV Lou. Hey, Lou. No, I'm not going to talk to him. Lou's on KCWI, that Iowa Live show. Anyway, the blue column is average daily rate, and you can see where that totally dropped. You look at last February. So last February, what was here? Iowa caucus. We were off to a great start in 2020. January was great. We had the Iowa Pork Congress. We had all these big ag shows that we normally have in January. We had Iowa caucus, and then Dave's party, the Democrats, screwed everything on that, the counting and all that. You're still a big Demi, aren't you? Oh, wait, I'm not supposed to make political comments here, am I? Anyway, you see the real peak in February, and then you see the big dip in April. And it's interesting when we look at our weekly reports, a couple of interesting things that we've seen. In July, you see this peak. Well, we were able to lure in the Nike basketball. It was called the Nike Tournament of Champions. It was a 3-week event. Came in on a Wednesday for 3 consecutive weeks with about 1,000 people each time. The reason they came here is they got booted out of McCormick Place in Chicago. We're looking for a new home. So we're constantly looking for stuff like that. That came in, so we saw a good peak for that 3-week period for hotel. Now times have changed so much now, because back in July, and all this stuff I always run through the governor's office. And I'll write them and say, hey, we've got this tournament coming in. This is the way it's good. This is how many people. It's at the Iowa Event Center. They require mask wearing when they're in the building. It's social distanced. They check your temperature when you walk in the building. All these different protocols, and get their approval. Yes, you're okay. Move ahead. Now those things have totally changed, because they're saying, no more than 15 people in a setting, and those things. And so that's, again, hurt us. But on the other hand, too, there's groups. I can tell you probably saw on the news last night, the Iowa pork producers canceled their big pork congress, which is in January, which brings in a couple thousand people. And they had met with me about 3 weeks ago, and they said, and they were gung-ho. If you know the ag community in a lot of the rural parts of the country, they weren't affected that much by COVID. They unfortunately are getting affected now. They weren't big into wearing masks or anything like that, and they're gung-ho. It's business as usual. We got to sell pork, we got to sell our corn, we got to all that. And they met with me 3 weeks ago, and they said, hey, we still want to do this convention, but we don't want to come out as the super spreader event, So we'd put together a plan, to at least a PR plan, to, tell the community and tell the this is what they're doing. They are going to, make people wear masks. They're going to do all this protocol stuff. Well, they canceled yesterday anyway, so. I don't know if the governor would have allowed that show or not, but those are kind of the real life stuff we're going through right now. Refocused a lot of our sales strategies. Again, really keeping in contact with our customers. We created about 1.5 years what we call our national. I just drew a blank. Our National Planner Advisory Board, where we selected 20 different national planners. So these were convention planners, sports event planners, corporate meeting planners from all walks of life across the country, and created this new board really to give us feedback on what do we need to be doing, how can we do a better job in bringing in more people, bringing in more groups into Des Moines and getting their feedback. So we're communicating with them right now on a quarterly basis. What's your future look like? It's the same old story. They're all saying, we're not doing anything for the next 6 months. We're going to wait till now, probably June, to see what's going to happen, and before we start planning meetings or events and those kind of things. Did the same thing with the state of Iowa, selected about 15 different of the bigger state of Iowa associations, Iowa Bankers, Iowa Realtors, Iowa Hospital, Iowa School Boards, some of those, and do the same thing with them. Community looking like for next year. A lot of them have fall conventions, and they're ready to pull the plug now, and we're saying, don't don't pull the plug yet. Let's give it till maybe March or April and see what things look like, see if the vaccine's going and all that. So try to keep people calm moving forward. On the marketing side, I hit on a lot of this earlier with the digital stuff we're doing. We had to slash our budget. So I should have talked about this earlier. Most of our budget comes through hotel motel tax. Well, you just saw that scenario. Our budget is down 54% this year compared to last year, roughly $3.2 million out the door. So we've cut drastically. We cut staff. We cut actually, right now we've cut 6 positions on our team. We cut salaries across the board. We cut all kinds of professional development program. Travel, there's no travel anyway. You can't go to trade shows. You can't go out and sell anything right now on the road. So huge, drastic cuts. So one of the hugest ones, is that a French word? It is, isn't it? Yeah. One of the hugest cuts was in marketing, and specifically in our advertising. We had to cut out all television advertising and a lot of that stuff. And that's another reason we've shifted, pivoted, and are doing a lot of this digital kind of stuff now. So now for the positive stuff. Look what's coming. And we're thrilled to death with this list, and I'm sure there's a bigger list than just what I'm showing here. Central Iowa Water Trails, you've read about that. That thing is going to become a reality. You've got a lot of big people, a lot of big corporate people in town, civic leadership that's really pushing this thing. And I believe in the next couple of years, you're going to see that Des Moines River downtown turned into a true recreation area. Whitewater rafting, perhaps even an area you could actually surf on, kayak on. You have a zip line across the river, just all kinds of really neat outdoor stuff. The communities around Des Moines, and that's why we're calling it, currently it's going through a branding process. It's going to come out with a new brand here probably in the next 30 days. Currently calling it Central Iowa Water Trails. And that's what we want to make it a regional thing. Because literally, Johnston, for instance, opened a year ago a new kayak ramp out near Pioneer Hybrid onto Beaver Creek. So you can pull in, they put a new parking lot in, take your kayak, canoe, raft, whatever, floaties, hop on the Beaver Creek, and literally take Beaver Creek down to the Des Moines River, take the Des Moines River downtown Des Moines. So there's so many connections, between our creeks and streams and into the Raccoon River, into the Des Moines River. And so this is going to be a really, really neat thing, kind of a new for the community. The skate park, another huge thing. It's going to open next year, the largest skate park in the United States. And I know you guys are like, yippee. But it's going to be huge. Number one, skateboarding is now an Olympic sport. In fact, the USA Skateboarding Olympic CEO came for the groundbreaking ceremony that we did about a year and a half ago. So that was really cool. It's being designed by a company called California Skate Parks, big architectural firm in California that's done all the big skate parks in Huntington Beach and all these big California places. So it's really going to be a cool place. You can see it now. You can't see it very well when you drive by. It's right, if you're coming up 3rd, is that 3rd? No, it's 2nd. Coming up 2nd Avenue from downtown, and Wells Fargo Arena's on your left, and the skate park's going to be over on the right side. There's the Rotary Park that you're all familiar with. It's just north of Rotary Park, about a block or so. The sculpture is up there now. It says "Wow," and it's actually a big metal sculpture, and you can see that these skateboarders can actually go in and skateboard in this thing. Now, my thought is, guess what happens on Mother's Day? Flip that sucker around, Mom. guys just aren't really liking any of my humor today, are you? All right, did I tell you about the elevator lady sitting over here? Okay, anyway. Recplex, new development, West Des Moines, will open next year. 3 sheets of ice, new soccer, big field house with a full-size soccer field indoors. Also can be converted to basketball courts, wrestling, gymnasium. Of course, the Kraus family working on the USL soccer stadium, bringing in a Major League Soccer team. Be like a AAA soccer team into the community would be huge. That location would be down right on the Raccoon River, the old Dyko site. The new Drake Stadium and Des Moines Public Schools, if that ever gets through the political process or whatever they're going through. Grimes just announced a couple weeks ago, and they're calling this the largest multi-sports complex in the Midwest, including soccer fields, baseball fields, again, a huge field house. Will draw a lot of people for new tournaments and things like that. And then Johnston just recently announced a big project too, another large field house that's actually going to have a 300-meter track in it, 8-lane track, so we'll be able to do indoor track meets, things like that. Obviously, in soccer, again, basketball, wrestling, gymnastics, what have you, all the different indoor sports. So a lot of good stuff on the horizon, a lot of good stuff for us that we can sell and bring in some more events and groups out there. So last year, this number's going to have a little bit of variance this year, but just the meetings and events that we booked last year, $7 million in economic impact to the community. So with that, I'll end and take any questions or personal shots that you'd like to take at me. Al? Vanna will be getting you the mic. Wipe that thing down, will you please? Wipe me down, will you? Gosh darn it.
You can hear me, right? Okay. Let me do this. Like you say, it's clear. Folks, I have 2 grandsons that live in Park Ridge, Illinois. Some of you may have gone through there. Hi, Mike. And these 2 grandsons play in Pop Warner football. I don't know how low it goes, but I know that there's a under 14 division. That's the highest level. From there, I think they're supposed to go in high school and so on. And then there's an under 12 level. Well, one of these things like Freedom Rocks, little people don't know that last weekend in LaPorte, Indiana, because they are the defending champions of the Midwest region of Pop Warner. Well, the governor of Illinois said you can't play football here in Illinois. Well, that didn't bother the people around Chicago. They went to Indiana. This coming week, starting Saturday, the oldest grandson who plays quarterback for the Park Ridge Falcons. It's great. And I'm telling you, I don't know, but I'm going to find out, Greg, how many thousand people are going to be in Orlando, Florida, for at least those 2 divisions that I know of. If there's an under 10, I'm not aware of it. So that is a market that there are lots of grandparents that I would think. And I would think that in the Midwest, football, especially with the Fortunes this fall, is still a viable tourism event. And I'd encourage you to think about that. The other one you won't be surprised with either. Every October, usually the first weekend in October, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History meets all over the United States and in places like Des Moines. And that's 1915. And the attraction for our promotion come here would obviously be Fort Des Moines. And then if that were successful, then maybe we'd have another shot at the NAACP. And I want to volunteer, Greg, anything that I can do and be part of your little group that maybe goes and presents. They ought to be here. Fort Des Moines still struggling. Let's put it that way. But that'd be two that I'd like to see you try and get. Yeah.
Thank you, Hal. I appreciate that.
Hey, Greg. Chris Anderson. Excuse me. Two questions for you. One, can you tell us a little bit about how Catch Des Moines came to be as far as the name? Because it's so unique. And the other thing is you talk about, obviously, all the introverts in your office. How are you, especially with other folks, that are listening and elsewhere in the area, they've got sales folks, they have marketing folks, they have other folks that are very dynamic. How are you keeping your cups full of spirits high, because you're trying to do it for other folks, but how are you doing it for your team?
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for those questions. Catch Des Moines came about, probably maybe 7-8 years ago. All across the country. We used to be, our international association was the International Association of Convention and Visitors Bureaus. Well, we're all sitting around, 15, 20 years ago, and we go, our name, Convention and Visitors Bureau, is very bureaucratic. It's very governmental. Most people, we went out and did a survey 20 years ago and just talked to people on the street. Do you know what a CVB is? And, most of them were like, yeah, it's a pharmacy down the street. Or, no, don't have a clue. Do you know what a Convention and Visitors Bureau is? Yeah, that's the convention center down the street here, or that's, whatever. Totally clueless. So a lot of them at that time started rebranding. And if you look across the country now, most of them use the word visit Spokane, visit such and such, experience Columbus, discover, all these different words out there. So we did a study, and we ended up hiring a local ad agency here. We put it out. We had national branding companies and all sorts of people bid on it. We stayed local, and they came back with Catch Des Moines. And initially we were like, oh. So people are going to be making jokes about it. Catch COVID now, Catch Des Moines, catch COVID. Don't catch COVID. But on the other hand, it was cool because the way they presented to us, they said, our old website was See Des Moines, SEE, SeeDesMoines.com. They go, you don't want people to see Des Moines. You want people to catch Des Moines. You want people to come here and visit here. And catch is that word of, you catch baseball, or you catch a movie, you catch a play, or whatever. So it was just a good positive thing, and we stuck with it. I think we're the only one in maybe the world that uses catch, but all the rest of them probably laugh at us. How do I keep my team? Every Monday morning, we do a team Zoom. Our staff has the option of staying home working. I've got several staff members that either have a spouse that are, anti-immune or whatever that word is. You guys can tell I'm really good with English and stuff. Just are totally do not want to be around public, which is totally fine. Or you have the option to come in on any given day. We have a staff now of 24. We might have 8 people in there at any given day. But Mondays mornings, everybody has to get on a Zoom at 9 o'clock. It's just a quick 5-minute, 10-minute Zoom call, checking in. I crack a couple of jokes. I'll probably use the elevator joke next week since that went over so big. And we kind of hit on. I hit personally on what I'm up to that week. Some of my schedule, who I'm meeting with, who I'm talking with, and really just keeping them uplifted. To keep telling them how important we are, that we're the ones that once this thing does get done, we're the ones that can restart the economy again. We can be the first ones, and we're ready to go. When people are ready to travel, man, we're going to hit the marketing buttons and really turn things on. So just try to keep them uplifted and have a good time with them. Try to give them some direction when needed, and just keep pushing them forward. Thanks for the question. Okay. Thank you. Wiper.
Got him up there.
Is that who's calling me now?
All right. Thank you, Greg, and especially for being a member of your Rotary Club of Des Moines for 17 years, believe it or not, and for your above mediocre presentation today. And because it was above mediocre, we're going to donate a book entitled Sports Illustrated Kids Hockey Then and Now. Then and Wow, I'm sorry. Wow, to the Des Moines Downtown School Library in your honor. And I know you've inscribed a few words of encouragement to our young readers. Want to thank everyone for being with us today, whether here in person or on the YouTube channel at a later time and all together. Next week, again, we're going to have limited seats available to attend, to attend in person. If you want your name thrown into a hat, and yes, we are literally going to do that. And we're going to video the drawing out of the hat, so you'll be assured that this is not rigged. Email the office tomorrow, Friday, by 5 p.m., and we'll draw names for the few number of seats that we have here open. Like I said, we plan to video Kitty drawing the names out of a hat. And that video link will be available in the Tuesday e-bulletin, so you can be assured we're not playing favorites. So those that are selected will be notified by email or a phone call. Note that some seats are already spoken for, because there's a few of us that are here that are required for attendance, as the presidency does have some perks. We'll wait and see if restrictions are lifted by the governor and what Wakanda will permit based on our upcoming December 17th party. And speaking of upcoming, 10th, we'll be awarding our $40,000 community service grant made possible by your Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation through your generous participation in helping us fund that. December 17th, a different kind of holiday lunch than what we're used to for the last 100 and some years. We're going to have Quartet 515 performing for us. They're a string quartet who are all members of the Des Moines Symphony. So hopefully we'll be able to have a few more people here in attendance for that. And I'm wondering if they will take any of my requests. I don't know. Yeah. Probably not Black Sabbath. Karen Carpenter, maybe. Oh, Metallica. All right. Thank you for being with us here today, and being part of your Rotary Club of Des Moines. And thanks to those of you tuning in now on YouTube or later. As always, take some time to leave something behind, a contribution to a charity in need, or something simple as a happy holidays greeting to a stranger. With that, we are adjourned.